Hello there, and welcome back to Adonai in Art, where we look at temporary art and put it under the lens of the eternal artist. As always, I'm your host, Noel Davison, and I am so thankful that you are here with me today. And I decided to get out the closest thing I had to a softball jersey for this. It's Spider-Punk themed. Shout out Box Lunch. Gabe apparently is going to be counting these Spider-Man references, and I'd say visually this counts as one. Does the watch intrinsically count as one? I've been wearing it for like 4 years, so anyway, he can sort that out later. But when I started this project last year for Win or Lose and began to deep dive into every episode Win or Lose had to offer, this was the episode I wanted to cover above probably everything else. Like, I love my God-fearing gal, Lori. The Rochelle episode's great, and I've enjoyed all of them so far. Everything the show does is amazing because I love its rapid-fire humor, the stories, the numerous background details, and the memorable ways they convey human emotion. But there's this beautiful, almost perfect way this episode does it. It's my second favorite episode of the whole show because given that we've already seen Win or Lose can do some incredible episodes, the fact it made second place was a high bar to climb. But my gosh... My boy Ewan, he's done so good. I've rewatched it several times, and I just can't stop being blown away about how much heart and detail was put into every frame of this episode. So no more filler. Let's pull the red velvet back and begin the show. I present you all with Win or Lose Episode 6, Mixed Signals. We open with a radio show talking about the blazing hot weather for a day. One of those, good afternoon, everyone. It's a hot blazing day and wherever this show takes place. And we cut down to the semifinal game. And as the camera pans down, two birds are cuddling all cutesy-like. And in the stands, the old couple that we've seen are now making out, even accompanied with little smoochy noises. A good, if non-subtle, foreshadowing to the episode's central focus. And as we cut to a mother holding up a sign that reads, "Go Ewan!" an electric guitar chord begins to play. And the crowd chants, "Ewan! Ewan!" The man himself approaches the pitching rubber, leaning down to grab his softball with total confidence. The chanting gets louder. The stomping gets louder. Rochelle, playing the catcher role, tells Ewan he's got this. And the boy up to bat is violently shaking in fear, because pitcher star Ewan stares down that boy up to bat, and with a spin of the softball, the crowd goes silent. The guitar becomes a rock song, and Ewan goes, "Here comes the Ewan special!" He sends the ball forward with a pink streak behind it to show its speed and give it flair. He strikes out multiple kids during the game, even leaving one with a charred hat, at least in his imagination. Ewan's pitches are shown to be unstoppable, each ball accompanied by a bigger pink streak that make it look like a soaring meteor. He jumps like 5 feet in the dang air and roars like an animal, showing shark teeth and surrounded by scribbled lightning bolts. His eyes glow yellow while a tiger roar plays behind him. It freaks out another kid. His pitches begin knocking kids into the sky with pink lightning. One gets slammed into the fence. Even Rochelle gets knocked back by one of the blasts. Ewan thinks he's all that and a bag of Miss Vicky's chips, and each clip from his imagination hypes him up while he basks in his own glory. He even yells, "Are you not entertained?" But finally, one batter hits one of Ewan's throws, only to be immediately caught by Taylor. Taylor smiles at Ewan with a glint in her braces. Ewan's face begins to smile with admiration, but then it drops down to a smug grin as he goes, "Thank you, I know, I'm amazing, you don't have to tell me." Taylor drops the ball at his feet while saying, "You mean, thanks, Taylor, for saving my butt. You're the best." Ewan, "Oh, Taylor, please. I gotta give you all something to do. I don't want to steal the limelight. You know I'm generous like that." Taylor retorts that this game isn't the Little Ewan show. Taylor then mocks Ewan's roar, going, "Rawr, did I do that right?" And then, as she walks away, Ewan scoffs at her impersonation and goes, "Ha, whatever." But then we start to hear his heart rapidly thumping, and we pan into his glowing chest. And it's this scene where I witnessed some of my favorite visual storytelling I've ever watched in a visual media. We cut to red velvet curtains being pulled back, and we're exposed to a theater stage. centered on a cardboard box that's shaped like a heart. Inside that cardboard box is a little boy's bedroom. There's a stick figure drawing of Ewan next to the door. There's a frame drawing of an animal roar or beast mode, and a frame drawing of number 1, and a race car bed. That was my childhood bed. I never got it, but it looked cool. At the center of this room is a little cardboard version of Ewan that looks and sounds like he's about 5 years old. And the theater spotlight flashes on this little Ewan, and he looks up and speaks to Taylor with big doe eyes. Please like me. And title card, but this time it's hung up by ropes to keep up the cardboard theater motif. And my stinking gosh, like, we're going to have visuals up, but if you're just listening to this, you need to go watch at least a clip of this, because my goodness, this visual style is so creative, and I love what it tells us about Ewan, that all the confidence and I'm so cool attitude, it's all a facade. It's a show. It's a performance to hide the real Ewan behind the curtains. It's the little Ewan in his heart of hearts. And the way he'll say one thing, but little Ewan will be translating what he actually means from his actions, that's so clever. That's writing right there. That's good freaking writing. Another great detail is the background song of the scene. It's called Nessun Dorma. I'm sorry if I mispronounced anything. And it tells the story of a man named Khalif who seems that he will win the princess that he's in love with. It's such a cute, subtle detail. The idea that Ewan sees Taylor as his princess that he wants to win. That's so cute. And after the title card, we cut abruptly back to the game. Ewan coughs and hits his chest with his fist so that way he can remain focused. We cut to the team's dugout pit where Ewan yells for the team to score some runs. And the camera pans up from some lime green avocado socks. That's a surprise tool that'll inform us later. And this is when my favorite God-fearing girl, Lori, heads up to plate. Ewan yells, "Come on, Lori, if you hit this one, it'll be a miracle." And Taylor stands up with one of her teammates to cheer Lori on. And it turns out, of all people, to be stupid, manipulative, leechy, peeping, crab crawling, now flirting with Taylor, Tom. Their pleasant chat causes Ewan to look concerned. And so he pulls out his phone to record the moment. He hops on top of one of the dugout benches and he breaks into a sports announcer voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have the Pickles dugout. Taylor, could we get a quote about how much you adore Ewan and how the team would be nothing without him?" And thus Taylor gives a quote. "Oh, you mean bottom of the lineup, Ewan?" This causes the whole team in the dugout to chuckle, and Ewan is momentarily stunned. The camera lingers on his frozen face for an extra second before he throws his head back and bolsters laughter going, "Ha ha 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 ha." But inside, we see little Ewan is sobbing. I won't keep following each description with how much I love this narrative idea, but seriously, y'all, this episode deserves an Emmy. And back to reality, Ewan scratches his heart again, which is such a smart indicator that he's repressing his feelings, and he turns his camera toward Lori. The team cheers her on, but we know how that went from episode 1. In this episode, though, we don't see her failed swings. Instead, we cut to the team's reactions as we hear Lori fall and grunt. They're all wincing at her fall. But Ewan gets off the bench, and he begins to record her failure. And that's why he ends up making the video. We're coming full circle from episode 1, and the root of Ewan's bullying was jealousy over his crush. We're going to keep seeing this throughout the episode, but Ewan's insecurity keeps manifesting as charismatic arrogance to hide his true feelings. So then we cut to Coach Dan's meeting, which we're all very familiar with. But instead of blah, 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 like last episode, we see Ewan showing off his meme video of Lori to some fellow teammates. We get to see more of it in this episode, and it turns out to be made in the style of those shooting star memes that were big in 2017. Again, this was probably written by older folk. I love that meme format, though, so I was cool with it. Kai from episode 1 through 3 is off to the left, rolling her eyes at Ewan's video. "Don't be a jerk, Ewan. Take it down." Ewan responds, "Why? So many likes already?" As the meeting ends, we see multiple teammates watching the video, even showing Taylor say again, "Hey, how much I love this," from last episode. It keeps being passed on to different groups until Ewan sees Lori and says, "She's got to see this. Hey, Lori, did you see my scouting report?" Then we start the same scene we witnessed in episode 1 between Lori and Ewan. Ewan says she's internet famous, and we cut to little Ewan, who starts to panic that he's showing her. I think little Ewan is the part of his conscience that realizes how rude it is for him to make this, but his desire for attention led Ewan to go through with it. And I discussed some of the differences of this scene in episode 1. A subtle one I like, though, is how Lori masks her embarrassment outwardly. Her excitement of being internet famous isn't even mentioned here like it was last time. I wonder if it's because inwardly Lori wanted the attention, but you get that inside along with her hurt when she sees the video mocking her. Like episode 1, though, Rochelle comes in to defend her friend and asks Ewan why he would post that. Ewan responds, well, it's comedy gold. And then Rochelle goes, you're so immature. Ewan remains smug and goes, oh, whatever. Hannah liked it. He hits a cool bro stance as Hannah goes, well, I like everything. But his smarm is stifled when Rochelle retorts, grow up. You're not funny. And that word echoes as a gust of wind slaps Ewan's smirk right off his face. A giant anvil marked not funny drops on little Ewan inside the cardboard heart. And as he pulls it off, a giant Rochelle burns away the wall of his heart with laser eyes like she's Supergirl. And then her eyes put a green spotlight over Ewan as their peers begin to laugh. Her words struck one of Ewan's biggest insecurities. And while we haven't seen Ewan lose composure in the previous versions of the scene, here he clenches his fist, he begins to sweat, and his eyes dart around to his peers with total fright. Little Ewan begins to see an army of giant laughing kids surround his cardboard heart. They all begin to calling him a loser while their eyes glare more green spotlights on the little cardboard guy. And now the pressure is piling up. People are starting to see the kid inside Ewan's heart. It's terrifying him. And while this happens, the camera even pans to a small Taylor in the corner who just shakes her head in shame and fades away. Rochelle's voice booms over little Ewan. He tries to drag his bed away to escape, but her giant hand keeps him trapped. You're just sad. You're just a sad little boy who's picking on her because you like Lori. Boom. The accusation stirs. Ewan's eyes go huge. And while we know this is internally freaking Lori out, all Ewan hears is the crowd gasp and Lori go, I never knew. Keeping up with the kid theater aesthetic we've seen in the cardboard heart, I love the kids become little Ewan's audience to the drama. And Ewan turns to his peers as they begin to speculate how long the two have been together. Ewan tries to deny it, but Lori interrupts his hand signs by saying, my mom owns a Dairy Queen. If you want, we could grab a Blizzard sometime. And I'll say again, I don't know if this change from episode 1 was miscommunication in the writer's room, but I'm willing to bet it's actually because Lori, the speculation I have is Lori is running her mouth while she's thinking something completely different. Heck, this could just be Ewan's mind conjuring up this line from his escalating anxiety. Either way, even if it's inconsistent, it adds delicious awkwardness for Ewan to absorb. Rochelle even stands proudly with her hands on her hips in this episode, as if Ewan is seeing that Rochelle bested him. But little Ewan pulls out a microphone and declares to the spotlights, what? I don't like Lori. I like Taylor. And while this statement sounded casual in previous episodes, Ewan's feelings project it to the heavens. He blurts it out to save his skin, and while Rochelle gasps, Lori goes, oh. Little Ewan panics now. He's going, oh, what did I do? The heart then shakes with thuds as the outward Ewan hits his heart. Good transition shot, animators. Go buy yourself a Starbucks drink. But after Ewan catches his breath, he turns towards Taylor, wearing a mask of confidence. You heard me. He approaches the slack-jawed girl. I like Taylor. Little Ewan blushes and gasps, is this happening? And while little Ewan yells into his mic, marry me, outward Ewan says, girl, you know you love me. So you want to go out or what? Dead silence. She looks at him, and he looks at her, and she looks at him, and he looks at her, now looking terrified. That's a little stuck in the drive-thru reference for my fellow Weird Al fans out there. But Taylor finally goes, yeah, sure. And little Ewan's room is lit with glittery pink. He spins and yells, she loves me. Now outward Ewan goes, yes, 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 awesome. And he strolls out of the lot in confidence, accidentally taking Lori's bag home. Oh, my poor God-fearing gal. She deserves better. But we cut to a food truck in the evening that drives up to a movie theater. It's actually driven by Ewan's mom. So what movie are you seeing? Ewan goes, I don't know, Squids and Truck 7 or something. As the car parks, she asks what's the special occasion. I'm guessing Ewan didn't tell her about Taylor? I don't know. Ewan laces himself down with some equivalent to Axe body spray, causing his mom to go, "Why do you smell like that?" And Ewan goes, "Mom, I'm a man now, so I smell like one." As Mom yells when she'll pick him up, Ewan turns to see Taylor dressed in date clothes. His mouth hangs open, and little Ewan starts floating skyward with angel wings. Keeping with the theater angle, too, I love how you see giant ropes pulling the angel wings up like they're a prop, or there's a little cardboard person backstage pulling the rope in order to make that. It's really good. Go watch the episode. As Ewan approaches, little Ewan says, "I should greet her. Hi, sweet Taylor." And what does Outward Ewan say? "Oh, what's up, my rad she-bro?" Taylor chuckles and says, "You don't have to front with me. Just be yourself." This causes the house lights on Ewan's heart to blare on, and little Ewan collapses to the ground, just thrown out of the air. We cut to Squids in Truck 7 that we saw last episode. That's such a good parody name. Both are sitting there awkwardly watching, but little Ewan is tearing up his cardboard pillow in panic, and even the feathers are cardboard in it. I know, I'm just keep talking about the details, but it's so good. Little Ewan says they should let Taylor know a line was funny, so Outward Ewan lets out a monkey laugh before stopping himself. But as the film flashes pink, the color of love, Taylor lifts up the armrest, dividing her seat from Ewan's. I've never been to a theater that does that, but we'll go with it. Little Ewan gasps, and then the theme of 2001: A Space Odyssey plays. You know that one. It goes, and Taylor shifts her pinky off of the seat, and inside Ewan's heart, a golden statue of Taylor's hand shines in the spotlight. This hand literally whispers her nonverbal cue, "Hold me." Ewan glances down, and little Ewan starts shoving a massive statue of his own hand toward Taylor's. It's such beautiful symbolism for how challenging this is for Ewan to do. I also love his hand is just way bigger than hers in this scene. I'm guessing it's an ego thing, but I haven't thought too hard about that symbolism. Outward Ewan wipes the popcorn butter off his hand and inches his pinky toward hers. Little Ewan lifts with all his whittle cardboard might until the statue finally lands on Taylor's. And with a sparkle as Ewan touches Taylor's pinky, Taylor's reaction shot is freaked out joy while Ewan is full-on blushing. The music includes as both just kind of rub their pinkies together as the screen flashes pink with love. Ewan grows a tiny smile and the screen cuts to black. Now we're at school as people talk about Ewan and Taylor in the hallways. They're school official, even making Frank gasp in this perspective. The two are still just holding pinkies. I've never seen that before. But they walk past stupid, leechy, manipulative crab crawling, asking Taylor if she wants to study after school Tom, but he gets blown off, thank God. They also walk past an exercising Lori, another callback to episode 1, and while she says she's happy for them, she grows sad as they walk away. Interesting, because we keep seeing that desire in Lori's heart to be cared about manifest. They're giving me more sympathy for my favorite character when it's not even her episode. Thank you, win or lose. Now we're at the softball field at sundown. Taylor's wearing catcher gear and wants Ewan's help to practice the position. And he says, "You really want my help?" She starts to back down because, it's stupid. She turns her head away while stifling some vomit. But showing true affection, Ewan gently turns her head back and says, "No, it's not stupid. I'm just surprised you want to be a catcher." He slides the mask down as a nonverbal way of further encouraging her. It's really sweet. But this is still Ewan, so he adds, "Don't beat yourself up if you can't catch my heat at first. I'm like the best pitcher in the state." He bounces the softball off of his bicep before tossing Taylor a light overhead throw. "Nice catch." Taylor encourages him not to go easy on him since she needs to learn. Ewan responds, "Well, here comes the airplane." Brr. Taylor's face is dropped like a rock, made worse by Ewan hitting a Fortnite dance. Gosh, these people, stop writing this. Taylor decides to go home since he's babying her, but Ewan promises to throw for real. The rock music begins to kick in, and with a whoosh, Ewan sends another pink projectile fastball that knocks Taylor to the ground. Ewan screams and runs over to check on her, but she tosses the ball back. Taylor lifts up her mask with a smile, and Ewan is completely lost in her eyes. Ewan's face crunches into a beautifully awful kiss face as he goes in. Both lean in, stretch their lips way too far out, and they start smooching. Before we see their lips connect, though, we get a hilarious montage that symbolizes victory. A dog catches a frisbee in midair, a baby's first steps, fireworks, Obama drops a mic. The last shot we see is just their legs, and Ewan drops the softball from his glove on the ground. We cut to the food truck that Ewan's mom drove. As she's handing off food to a customer, Taylor tells Ewan on top of the van that Ira's been struggling and has been hanging out with the bleacher creatures. She mentions she worries about Ira sometimes, so she doesn't care about him, thank God. Ewan promises to talk to him about it, which we know he never does, and Taylor finishes their matching Sharpie drawings. It's on their arms, and it makes Taywin. Cringy name, but it's middle school romance. They got time to think on it. Taylor's honesty inspires Ewan to tell her something. At first, he exasperates that he's the perfect human being, but Taylor's eye roll makes him stop. I love his development isn't a completely natural 180 from showing off vulnerability. It's a process for him, likely because it's such a big deal to him to put down the facade of being a show-off into a human. And this is shown by Ewan admitting that he hasn't told anybody this before. Inside the cardboard heart, there's a neon sign that reads laughter, similar to one a sitcom set would use for its audience. But now, in previous parts of the episode, it's been turned on, but now it's off. And little Ewan takes a deep breath and approaches a set of stairs we've seen in his heart bedroom up till now. As outward Ewan cups his hands over his heart, he clears his throat again and asks Taylor, "Can I trust you?" When she says absolutely, little Ewan walks through the open door of his heart, and we see him holding little Ewan in his hands. Little Ewan says, "Hi, this is the real me." So Ewan is showing his full heart on display, literally the personification of who he really is. One of the most vulnerable places a human can be. It's always a huge risk when we open our heart to others, with beautiful or devastating results. So what does Taylor do? Taylor smiles, and she cuddles little Ewan before reaching to her own heart and revealing her little cardboard self, which vomits pink glitter. It's a nice payoff to her almost vomiting in a previous scene. And Taylor says she does that when she's nervous. But that doesn't stop little Ewan from saying, "Taylor, you're amazing." Both little cardboard people hold hands and they start kissing. It's just so dang sweet. A nice, beautiful representation of how they revealed their hearts to each other. And what better way to cap off that scene than with a montage? And they play video games, roller skate, a pop song plays behind them, all the usual stuff. But during it, little Ewan welcomes little Taylor into his cardboard heart bedroom. And while the outward couple is doing your standard middle school romantic stuff, we see the little versions building outward from Ewan's room into a full-on cardboard heart house. It's got couches, framed pictures of the two, even a sign that reads Taylor and Ewan in the center. I mean, I don't advocate for people moving in together, but I like it here since it's illustrating how much of themselves are building off of their hearts. It's not physically moving in, it's metaphorically moving in because their whole relationship has spanned less than a week. We're not even into championship night yet, but this is their first relationship. And they're middle school kids, so naturally it feels like such a big deal. All the emotions are tiding in at once. And there's joy, acceptance, there's love. It feels exciting. The real them are opening the door to this, and they're enjoying it, falling head first. And during the montage, we see Ewan helping Taylor refine her catching skills. So she's catching fastballs like nobody's business. They both roar like Ewan did in the beginning to cap off the montage. It's just really cute, once again. And I'm so glad that nothing will happen to shatter this week-long love, right? Yeah, so we cut to Ewan working at his mother's food truck and gushes about his relationship to Kai, who's been implied in previous dialogue to be Ewan's best friend. We both love music and we like skating, and she laughs at all my jokes. You want steak or chicken? Vegetarian. Ew, fine. Tay and I like meat. We like the city more than the country, and we want 2 kids, maybe 3. Jacob, Catherine, and Aspen. Kai laughs at what a romantic Ewan's become and says Taylor's lucky to have him. And little Ewan responds, "I'm lucky to have her." That's so amazing. And this time, outward Ewan actually says what little Ewan said. He goes, "Actually, I'm lucky to have her." And with a smile, Kai responds, "I think I like this Ewan." But then we're back to school, and Ewan has become such a gentleman, he holds Taylor's dreads back at the water fountain. Man, friggin' Francis the janitor even finds that adorable. He's watching them with a creepy smirk in the background. It's good to see that paradox of a human again. He's been gone for a bit. But as Taylor gets a drink, the phone she was holding between her arms falls to the floor. Ewan reaches to pick it up, but someone else picks it up. It's stupid, leechy, manipulative, crab-crawling, now in this scene, Tom, and hands it to Taylor. He checks that the phone screen's not broken, and Taylor says, "Oh, you're so sweet." Almost immediately, as the two begin laughing at each other, Ewan furrows his eyebrows and translates their talk with soap opera flirtation. The screen cuts to a blurry mood lighting. Taylor's earrings sparkle alongside Tom's tiny stubble whiskers. Taylor's words sound way more deep as she goes, "Thank you." And the world goes into slow-mo when Tom asks to talk to Taylor about something. Taylor brushes his hand and says, yeah, for sure. Little Ewan's world has now turned black and white, and little Ewan is shown eavesdropping on a closed door where we see the silhouette of little Taylor talking on the phone with someone in the dark. Ewan feels left in the dark, and so the lighting changes. The storytelling, man. But little Taylor leaves the room, and with an awkward smile, little Ewan passes by. Ewan goes in to investigate the room and dramatically finds a lime green avocado sock in the trash can. The show cuts back to Tom's legs wearing those same knee-high socks as Taylor asks how his brother is doing. Seeing the two continue to talk, Ewan interrupts by yelling, "I have a brother too." Absorbed him in the womb. "There can only be one." But Taylor pushes him back and says, "Not now, Ewan." And turning back to Tom, goes, "I'm here for you if you need anything." Tom says since it's been so hard, he would really use help with tutoring. Right. We saw in episode 3 how much you do, you stupid, leechy, manipulative, crab-crawling. Oh, okay, I've said the joke enough. That doesn't justify Ewan's comment, though, because when Tom says he needs help, Ewan goes, "Oh, that's right, you do." Taylor turns and goes, "Seriously, is this some kind of joke?" And Ewan's defense mechanism kicks in by saying, "Wow, okay, you don't even have a sense of humor now?" Tom leaves the conversation, saying he'll just ask Rochelle. Tom. But now Taylor comes around frustrated. "Listen to me. I just need you to be serious sometimes." Inside the heart, little Ewan and Taylor are now arguing about the sock Ewan found. They're trashing the room. They're crying. A French song called Parole plays in the background. The song is a duet where a woman calls a man's sweet words empty and meaning nothing. So it's conveying Ewan's emotional state without his outward self properly conveying how he really feels. That Taylor's giving too much affection to another guy, and he's worried she's not faithful to him. But then we cut to championship night, where Taylor, Ewan, and Ira were walking to the stands. We don't hear their argument from episode 5, where Ewan deflects Taylor's questions about what's wrong. Instead, we just see them walk in silence while Ewan looks angry. But when her and Ira brush past him, Ewan's face drops in saddened surprise. In the heart, little Ewan and Taylor continue to weep and argue in black and white, staying awake in their beds angry. They even cut to the outside of the heart, where they're in complete opposite rooms of the heart house, and the house looks so much more dismal. I mean the outside of the heart, not outside world. But on to the championship game, and kids in the dugout pit are discussing what happened between their relationship. Someone even goes, "Man, I hate conflict." Amen, brother. Glancing up from his grumpy glare, Ewan sees a lime green avocado sock, which rises up to Tom, saying, "Taylor says he's insecure." Not directly to him, but Tom is talking to someone else about it. Little Ewan hears "insecure" echo through the house. And while looking at his framed pictures of outward Ewan and Taylor, little Ewan begins to see those lime green socks everywhere. Keep in mind, the heart's still in black and white, so the lime green especially stands out in each frame. Suddenly, Tom is next to the memories at lunch. He's in the background. His foot is leaning up right next to theirs. None of this was actually in the scene, but since Ewan's jealousy is so high, his emotions are tricking him into thinking that Tom has always been there. Can anyone else relate to that? I 100% can. Where your own jealousy starts to fabricate your memory because it's fueled by your emotions. And this causes both little Ewan and outward Ewan to scream, and outward Ewan compulsively begins to deflect. You know, did Taylor tell you how she wants to take Rochelle's spot as catcher? As if she's even good enough. Yeah. Ewan just broke his promise to not tell anyone about Taylor wanting to be catcher, and he fibbed to make Taylor seem like she wanted to steal the position. Everyone's eyes shift to Taylor, but she wisely doesn't respond, just stares back in frustrated disappointment. Coach Dan runs into the scene, asking if anyone's seen Rochelle. She was dealing with the bleacher creatures during this time. But Tom has an answer. I was just with her mom, actually. That's an interesting way to phrase that, Tom. What do you mean by that? But we saw episode 4. We know what he means by that. But what do you mean by that, Tom? All right, so kind of ignoring that remark, Dan assumes this means that she just might be a little late. Also saying they'll need a new catcher, he calls on beloved extra Terrence to fill the role. But Terrence's fear inspires Taylor to say she'll fill the role. Coach asks if she's possibly better than Rochelle, but he goes, oh, sorry, never mind. Not helping the poor girl's self-esteem there, Dan. But we'll see why he's worried about that later on. Ewan takes this moment to be a jerk, of course. Hey, Taylor, don't get nervous. And then goes, you better not puke. Ewan, bro! That line is going too far. And that leads little Ewan to pound on the door of the cardboard bathroom little Taylor is locked inside. While little Taylor is crying, Ewan keeps yelling, no, no, no. Outward Ewan coughs again while hitting his heart, which causes little Ewan to fall over. It seems like his heart is crying out to Taylor. He's not wanting to lose her, but outward Ewan's way of conveying it is not helping the conflict. He's backsliding into his defense mechanisms to hide his true feelings, which scare him more than using words. The dugout leaves with no reaction, which causes Ewan's face to drop, and Taylor apathetically says, I'll see you on the field. He didn't get the reaction he wanted. He's starting to see what his words really do in these scenarios, especially to those around him. As Ewan pitches, Taylor tries to use the hand signs they practiced during the past week, but Ewan just shakes his head and throws a different type of pitch. These cause the enemy team to hit the ball and fill half the bases. Yeah, like in one hit. Once more, Taylor tries a hand sign, but Ewan just shakes his head. We're shown the soap opera lighting again, but Taylor's side is pink while Ewan looks more red. The colors indicate to me that this is more than just a pitch. It's also for their relationship. Both non-verbally Both non-verbally nod or point, respectively. And in a 3-panel shot, Coach is caught in the middle of it, beginning to freak out by what they're doing. It's good foreshadowing for his emotional state in episode 8, but of course we'll save that for later. Instead of sticking on Coach, we see more people begin to react to this. Kai, the kid up to bat, the birds from the opening shot, even the elderly couple in the audience. Ewan keeps throwing difficult pitches at her. Taylor keeps yelling at him to stop, but he responds, try and keep up. Inside his heart, little Taylor begins to pack up her things while little Ewan watches in tears. When Taylor realizes he won't stop, she yells at Coach that the team needs a new pitcher. Little Taylor begins to walk out, and while little Ewan weeps, he looks to the sky and yells, no, what are you doing? He's not talking to Taylor. He's talking to himself, his outward self. But as an electric guitar begins to rise in this dramatic music, Ewan chooses his pride, his beast mode that we've seen over his heart, even roaring again to show that, and he chucks a fastball that Taylor wasn't prepared for, and she fumbles it. Ewan didn't expect that, and he tries to apologize while literally crossing the pitcher's line, showing that he's crossed the line. Nice. But the damage has been done. The opposing team run around the bases and manage to get 1 point over the Pickles. The score is 3-4 to the Pickles, and it's Ewan's fault. As we hear someone yell, where's the good catcher? Taylor tosses off her catcher helmet and yells, that's it. I'm done. We're done. With tears in her eyes, she tosses the ball back, yells at him to grow up, just like she did to Ira in episode 5. Interesting. And she smudges off the Wen on her Taywin drawing. She broke the heart because he broke hers. Inside, the heart house shatters. The hand statues fall away. Their Taywin sign is literally split down the middle. And little Taylor begins to head toward the original door, which is in little Ewan's original bedroom. She's leaving. I should also note in the shot that little Ewan is stopped by a chasm that keeps him from little Taylor to symbolize the chasm he is made with her. Taylor straight up walks off the field in the real world while Coach yells, where are you going? We're in the middle of a game! Ewan stands stunned, and heartbroken. He gently lifts his hand over his heart, as in his heart, half of the heart house falls into the abyss, with little Taylor inside. Little Ewan holds out his hand to her, but then a piece of rubble smacks him off of the heart too. It's crazy. It literally looks like they just killed a little kid. In driving little Taylor away, Ewan also damaged the real him in the process. Unlike previous episodes, the end credits song actually begins to play right here as the camera sweeps around Ewan, watching the consequences of his actions unfold before his eyes. The enemy team's coach yells at them to keep running the bases, and with heavy breathing, Ewan's hand glides off his chest. And when we cut back to his heart, half of it's still missing, but the color is gone. The Taylor side of the Ewan and Taylor side is gone, and it's broken completely down the middle. It's not subtle, but it's a powerful visual. Remnants of Taylor are still there, but he left himself in shambles, and the real him inside is nowhere to be seen. The last shot we see of Ewan is just his legs, and Ewan drops the softball from his glove to the ground. Campfire once again created the end credits song, but months of hindsight and listening through all the Win or Lose songs have made this my favorite song on the track. In fact, this is going to be a great transition period from the episode into Ewan's struggles, and from there we can talk about the biblical themes that come through it. And the song is called "The Joke Is On Me," and it's so good we're actually going to deep dive into the lyrics because one, it's actually a pretty short song, and two, what I just said about Ewan's psychological state, and three, these lyrics are dadgum poetry. So let's get started with it. This whole song is told from the perspective of Ewan, and it starts here. Guess my skin ain't really thick enough. Not the type to take a sucker punch real well. Ewan has spent this episode and previous ones coming off as the pinnacle of confidence. Oh, he can take anything. He's such a great pitcher, and keeps bragging about how good he is, that he gives himself the illusion that he's strong. But as most characters are able to see, especially Rochelle and Taylor, it's all a facade. And when someone makes a comment that attacks who he's trying to be, he can't take the sucker punch real well. And they are sucker punches. When Rochelle says he's not funny, that laser beams through his heart's wall because it breaks down the reason he's saying those confident lines at all, because he wants to be liked. Taylor tells him he doesn't have to front with her. She saw his persona for what it was, a mask. And it knocked little Ewan from his literal visual of flying high from emotion. Next line. I spent my whole life trying to crowd please, grinning with tears on my cheeks. Just like I said, Ewan's heart gets most assaulted when he doesn't get the approval or attention he's seeking. His talk and insulting jokes are meant to make people think he's cool, make the crowd adore Ewan. That's why he hears people chanting his name in the beginning of this episode. It's what he wants from playing softball, approval. All of his time trying to crowd please doesn't satisfy him. And when his insecurities get attacked, we see that he laughs it off or deflects it on somebody else. He grins while inside little Ewan, his true self, is heartbroken. Next line is funny bone turning black and blue. Someone must have let the air out of the room because now they're laughing so hard they can't breathe. Ha, ha, ha. Guess the joke is on me. After all of this time of deflecting Ewan's pain and true feelings, it's taken a toll on him. It's not working anymore to mask his inner pain. And I think they who are laughing so hard they can't breathe are the people around Ewan that he keeps performing to. Remember, the cardboard heart scenes were all set up like a children's theater stage, props, stage lighting, and everything. This show that Ewan's put on, where he throws out jokes or makes fun of somebody, are having the opposite effect on him. They're supposed to be at somebody else's expense, but now Ewan realizes that he's the punchline. The joke's on him because he's the one who's truly been damaged by it. Next line. All this talking down my neck, I should respect you more. If the narrator of the song is Ewan, then it's a safe assumption the you in this lyric is Taylor. She's been frustrated at Ewan's inappropriate jokes, not taking Tom's problems seriously, or fronting with her at the movie theater. This implies Ewan brushed off her stance against his humor, but now he's seen the consequence of not listening to Taylor's advice. Even though she was insistent on him stopping, thus talking down his neck, Ewan now realizes how true it was, and he sees the damage he's done because he didn't stop. And that leads into Ewan's view of all the damage in these next lines. Next line is, I threw it all away when I went back made sure. There's a hole in my heart like yours. It was my fault, something time can't cure. Ewan's caused such fatal damage on his relationship with Taylor, and the idea that he went back and made sure implies to me that he overdid the attack. One of my favorite details in Ewan's climactic flash out was when little Ewan yells at him, "What are you doing?" His own heart knew what he was doing was awful, but he chose to listen to his sinful nature to get back at Taylor rather than humble himself. Proverbs 21 verse 4 puts it perfectly. Wrath is cruel, anger is overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? Ewan's jealousy spurred him to hurt Taylor because he felt betrayed by her connection with Tom and was afraid of losing her, but it led him to hurt her in a way where he genuinely lost her. His fear of losing her led him to commit the action where he actually lost her. And right above verse 4, Proverbs 21 verse 3 speaks of this human nature. A stone is heavy and sand is weighty, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. Ewan provoked Taylor to break up with him, and the song conveys Ewan's realization that this is his fault. Have you ever felt the weight of how you've hurt somebody? When I was around 10 years old, my younger sister and I were playing a game in my bedroom. I had a tall bed at the time with a thick metal bed frame. I can't remember if it was a board game or a video game, but at some point we got into an intense argument over who won. Maybe I cheated, maybe we messed up the rules, maybe she cheated and tried to get out of it. Could be any number of those reasons. We were kids. I don't remember those details, but you know what I do remember from that? I was so furious she didn't agree with me that in the briefest moment of wanting to get back at her, I shoved her to the floor and her hip bone slammed against the bed frame. You could hear the impact. Whatever reason I justified that shove did not matter anymore. All I could hear was my sister crying in pain, and I felt such immense shame over what I had done. I was the fool, and whatever reason I was provoked made me feel the weight of my sin. That sinking feeling where I know I crossed the line, what I subconsciously assumed would make me feel better, left me in deeper pain and now hurt somebody that I love. Have you ever felt a similar weight like that? Even if no one listening has, I know this show's writers must have. It's a stab of pain you don't quickly forget. That's why the song says, it was my fault, something time can't cure. Because when I was in that moment, where Ewan's in this moment, we both feel like we've forever broken something. And while it would be easy to hold the shame over our heads, it's not true. It's not true that time can't cure it. Believe it or not, the Bible says that our Heavenly Father has some words to expose that lie, and we hear it from him soon. Going back to the lyrics, though, Ewan goes, I know, deep in the abyss I go. We were cool till it all turned cold. Now I'm thinking it can't be. Ha, 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 I guess the joke's on me. This further reinforces the shame that Ewan feels and ties into when we saw little Ewan fall away with the crumbling half of his heart. The despair we feel once we know how badly we hurt someone is a long plunge. And Ewan, thinking it can't be, puts words to that shocked face he had at the end. So after repeating the first half of verse 1, we have one last line worth analyzing. Wanna run away, but I just freeze. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, the joke's on me. In the last frame of our episode, Ewan is stuck. He's in shock that Taylor broke up with him, that he hurt her so bad that he opened his heart up for one of the first times and it got sucker punched. He knows what he wants to do, but at this moment he feels stuck. All the pain he wished to avoid when he pounded on his heart is now on full display. What does he do? I think we'll be ready to answer that question once we look back at Ewan's full journey. Once again, Win or Lose exposes us to the complicated in-between of a person's heart. It does such brilliant writing in this, where we've had 5 episodes that have shown Ewan to be a bully and a jerk from other people's perspective. And this episode doesn't shy away from his flaws. They're on full display as he tries to convey the feelings in his heart. And with each time I've watched this episode, my heart actually empathizes with Ewan more and more. I've talked plenty about how smart the cardboard heart was for conveying Ewan's emotions and for its unique aesthetic. It actually kind of reminds me of Paper Mario with how intentionally craft-based the visuals are. And the best thing it does is show how our fear can contrast our heart's desire. Ewan seems terrified of looking weak, which we see through the way he suppresses his feelings through jokes or bullying. His beast mode moments show him as a fierce player so he can be approved by others. But his relationship with Taylor begins to open him up to the reality of what he really wants under the facade of his ego. He wants to be loved. This isn't just a romantic love, but a love where someone cares about him, accepts him, and gives him value as a person. It's the same struggle we saw Ira had in his episode, and Frank, and Lori, because at the core of each human, we all want to be loved. I'm glad we don't get any clear signs as to why Ewan acts the way he does for acceptance, but I think there is enough evidence for us to wonder on some of the symptoms that led Ewan to this behavior. It's not responsible for his behavior, but they did factor in. I think it's interesting we don't see any sign that Ewan has a father in these episodes. That might help us understand where that lack of feeling accepted comes from. He might also act like this because he's fallen for the lie of toxic masculinity, where showing emotions make you weak or less valuable, that you always need to come from a position of strength. Whatever the case, Ewan is such a great character because we have the fun of watching a charismatic show-off, but literally see the real him multiple times. It bridges the gap between a bully character into a broken human, which is far more accurate to how people are in real life. And that makes the scenes where he acts like a jerk less aggravating, but more heartbreaking. That scene where little Ewan screams, "What are you doing?" at his outward self is so powerful because it reflects our soul's broken nature and how that contrasts to what our heart truly wants. This violent nature that brings out these compulsions is called sinful nature. And the Apostle Paul warned us about the evil that hinders us from doing what is right. Romans chapter 7, verses 14 through 15 says, "We know that the law, what is right, is spiritual, but I am of the flesh, sold under sin. For I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing that I hate." Ewan got to taste a slice of this split mind whenever he was insulting Taylor, but there's more to it. Going on to verses 16 through 19. "Now, if I do what I do not want, I agree with the law, and that is good. So now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells within me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I don't have the ability to carry it out. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing." When Paul wrote this, he was explaining to his audience that to be a Christian meant to turn from sin and live their lives as instruments of righteousness, doing the good that Jesus called for them to do. An instrument is a tool that's used to produce something. We normally think of music in that. So when you play a guitar, it's meant to produce music, and you can use it whether to produce good sounds or pitchy sounds or bad sounds. And so we're called to be a tool of good, of righteousness. This also looked like following God's law, which this audience of Jewish people would know, since all Jews at this time lived under the Jewish law found in Torah, or at the first five books of the Bible. But chapter 7 is where Paul tells his audience that despite our desire to follow the law, our heart compels us to do what is evil. It's a split feeling where we are inherently evil, and yet we were also made by a God who is good. So we have this split where we are not inherently good, we are inherently corrupted and evil, but we desire to do what is good because we have the desire of God. Chapter 7 is where Paul tells his audience that despite our desire to follow the law, like I said, our heart compels us to do what is evil, to lash out in jealousy instead of sharing our scary feelings, like Ewan did to Taylor. And so because all humans have failed to perfectly follow the law, we are all worthy of death. We deserve punishment for our evil. The sorrow Ewan felt at hurting Taylor, realizing how empty his facade of confidence was, helped his heart realize how evil it can be. Ewan has been woken up to how hurtful he can be, and thus that he is deserving of death. Not in the case that he has literally understood this concept, but he feels the concept. In the same way, I deserve death because I shoved my sister and caused her so much pain. That sounds extreme, but we saw the effect Ewan's anger did to his own heart, let alone what he's done to Taylor's heart and the other people we've seen in different episodes. If there's no consequence for pain, then it's unjust to those who have been hurt. Ewan himself recognized that, and so did the psalm by emphasizing this was his fault, and so big that it's something time can't cure. But like we said, that line isn't true. Now, it will get worse if the hole in his heart isn't healed, but it can be cured, because Ewan can give his heart to the one who can heal it. Then the pain won't just be cured, but forgiven. Romans 6:23, for the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. Jesus gives all humans the opportunity to be healed, and the only thing he asks for is our heart. It is costly at first and all throughout our lives, but what he gives in return far outweigh the negatives that may arrive. The love and acceptance that Ewan has been craving would all be filled when he knew that the creator of the universe loves him infinitely. And not because he's worthy, but because God loves Ewan despite him being unworthy. For all of us out there who have felt the weight of not being worth it, who feel shackled to the horrible things they've done, Jesus steps in and says that he did not come into this world to condemn us, but so that we might be saved through him. John 3, verse 17. He's the Father who doesn't hold the sins of his children against them, but when they've brought them forward, when they've confessed their sins to his Father, he will forgive them and celebrate that his children are with him. Go read Luke chapter 15, verse 11 through 32 to see the kind of heart that God has for his prodigal sons and daughters, the ones who are guilty, who bring forward that we have sinned, we are no longer worthy to be called your children, and he runs and hugs us and throws a party, for once we were lost and now we are found. Ewan's fear of showing his true self would be unjustified if he met the God who made his true self intentionally, fearfully, and wonderfully. The wounds Ewan inflicted were real, but they can be cured. This would lead Ewan into apologizing, reconciling with others, especially Taylor. But first, he needs his own shame and sin cured by going to the right doctor, the only one who can save him, Jesus Christ. And that call is the same for every single one of us. You need to be wise in how you use your emotions, because Ewan's story reminds us of how dangerous our pain can be when we don't control our emotions and use it to hurt others. The hurt is real. It damages people and makes us guilty of evil. But when we bring our deeds before Jesus and make him the Lord of our lives, we find the love that we've been longing for. We don't have to wear that mask anymore. Our real self is the one that God made, that he says is precious, is beloved, his handiwork. And so we begin to live our lives as free people, forgiven people. And that makes it easy to remember that our worth is in him, and then to give worth to others because we know they are also valuable in his sight. The God overall loves you in spite of your sins, in spite of your evil nature, because above everything God made, he was happiest when he made you. So I pray you take that message home with you today. And I want to say thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Win or Lose Episode 6. I've been very excited to finally share this, and I pray that it has been encouraging, challenging, and all the things. If you enjoyed this episode, then a positive rating would be greatly appreciated. But more importantly, if this reaches even one person to know the love of Jesus Christ, then my job is done. So thank you all for watching. And until then, may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Grace be with you all.